I wonder who Vladimir Putin is supporting in 2024.
If we can name a favorite candidate, it used to be Joe Biden, but now he is not participating in the election campaign, and he recommended all his allies to support Ms. Harris. So that is what we are going to do.
I guess we have a new representative for the white dudes for Kamala Harris, as I guess that makes all the Democrats right now Putin's puppets. And that's exactly what the corporate media is saying about a lot of independent media right now, a lot of which I personally know, as of course we now have the latest DOJ indictment against Tenet Media, as there's a lot of controversy, conspiracies, and absolutely wild details coming out about this larger hijacking of the narrative that we're all seeing kind of portrayed and talked about right now. As of course, I personally want to talk about some of the money offers that I was offered. I want to talk about some of the things that have happened behind the scenes of what everyone was saying about Tenet Media, as this is a major story, as the corporate media right now is accusing Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, two individuals that I personally know, of, quote, helping spread Russian disinformation on YouTube and X. Now, is that charge true? I don't believe it to be, as of course I will explain why in just a little bit. Wired magazine has another headline here saying right-wing influence network Tenet Media allegedly spread Russian disinformation, as an unsealed indictment by the DOJ is now alleging that employees of Russian state media contracted for and oversaw the dissemination of Kremlin, quote, talking points by right-wing influencers going on and including Benny Johnson and Tim Pool again in here. And again, I do not believe this to be true, as the corporate media can't even get the right picture of Tim Pool highlighting some plump, fat white guy. Instead of Tim Pool, with literally their caption reading here, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, and Benny Johnson. They got Dave Rubin right. They got Benny Johnson right. But they can't even find the right picture for Timmy Boy, who is looking more rough than ever. This says, of course, we have to admit here, there's a lot of foreign collusion and intervention in our political discourse. There's a lot of it, especially when you look at things like, the Hunter Biden story with his larger associations with Burisma Oil and many other foreign government-connected businesses that have funneled a huge sum of money into the Biden family. For some reason, we're not talking about that. For some reason, why aren't we talking about all the Qatari money? Why aren't we talking about all the Saudi money? Or dare I say it, even the Israeli money and influence that is in, of course, media right now that is having a major impact on our discourse. Now, for full disclosure, as an independent media organization, we're not taking any money from any foreign governments. We predominantly work for you, and our finances and funding predominantly comes from LukeUnfiltered.com. It's our own Patreon-like style members program that I go over the top for when it comes to providing incredible offers of value. As of course, we have no deal with any kind of foreign government or influence. We have you. Literally going to LukeUnfiltered.com, clicking the support link for either $8, $15, $99 a month, whatever you can afford, and then getting a huge plethora of amazing offers of value, 3 masterclasses, a forum to talk to other members, a members-only t-shirt store, a seed oil card, a crap list of items that you should avoid. We also allow you to call into our live podcast show that we do 3 days out of the week. And we give you free tickets to major events, as we're going to be doing another ticket giveaway for a major event happening here in Miami, Florida very soon. Stay tuned for those developments and a lot more. As of course, the more of you guys sign up, the more we do for you on an independent, one-on-one, peer-to-peer basis, which is more important than ever right now, especially with the bombshell of what we're learning about right now, as the DOJ indictment specifically reads that Tim Pool and Benny Johnson were lied to, allegedly by Lauren Chen and her husband, that were hiding the fact of where the money was coming from. And there was a lot of money, as the two reportedly were getting $400,000 a month, as the people who were receiving this money specifically were saying, hey, where's this money coming from? Rightfully asking, as of course you have to ask these questions now. And according to the indictment, there were very underhanded efforts being made by Lauren Chen and her husband that of course lied to them, covered up the fact of where the money was coming from. As I could even personally attest that I was curious about this story myself. But ever since Tenet Media kind of came up, ever since they kind of made their announcement, I was like, who are these guys? Where are they getting their money? I asked everyone, and I talked to a lot of people in the industry, and And the scuttlebutt and the conversations that were happening behind the scenes, even with people at Tenet, was specifically what was told to me was that this was money that was specifically coming from family members connected to Lauren Chen that were very successful, had a lot of money, and just wanted to finance a larger kind of new Daily Wire kind of competitor. As through me, even asking and finding out what was going on here, there was never any kind of larger admission of, there's, the $10 million that, according to the DOJ, came from a Russian state media, as the indictment specifically names two individuals in their 30s that there is an indictment for that are, quote, currently still on the run. As U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland said himself, quote, the company never disclosed to the influencers or to their millions of followers its ties to, quote, Russian state media company and the Russian government. Therefore, these articles that there was some kind of deliberate spreading of Russian disinformation is absolutely false, and I could attest this personally, as of course I know Tim Pool. I've worked with him. We've been on the ground and did some of the craziest reporting ever from places like Fukushima, Japan, and other kind of larger protest zones and civil unrest areas. And we have been collaborating for, 12 plus years now? As of course, he already had an ongoing show that he sold to Tenet Media, licensed it to them, and then continued it just the same way he did, as there was no editorial control over it at all. So the fact that this organization was influencing Tim to spread Russian disinformation is absolutely false. And if you look at that larger kind of culture war show, which I've been on, there's been a lot of particular issues that we have been describing that are absolutely out of the orthodoxy of even politics. There's a lot of things specifically talked about when it comes to culture. And seeing how the show is produced, seeing how the show is made, and being a part of the show sometimes myself, there was absolutely no one, in my opinion, from my perspective and my observations, that came in and said, no, you're going to talk about this, you're not going to talk about that. There was no editorial control. From what I have personally seen on the ground from myself, from my own personal perspective and viewpoint. As Tim Pool made an official statement addressing all of this, saying that he was deceived and is the victim here, saying, quote, never at any point did anyone other than I have full editorial control of the show, and the contents of the show are often apolitical. Examples including discussing spiritual, dating, and video games. Ending on his latest talking points against Vladimir Putin and Russia, as Benny Johnson, also someone that I know in the industry, also released a statement saying that he is disturbed by the allegations in today's indictment, as when you read the indictment, a lot of these allegations are specifically about not being registered, quote, foreign agents, as of course, there is a lot of influence that usually does happen by foreign corporations, foreign entities, and of course, countries that try to sway political speech and conversations here in the United States. As particularly Mike Cernovich pointed out that AJ plus Al Jazeera, quote, is a far left-wing media outlet designed to create riots and chaos. Quote, it is funded by Qatar. Today's indictment is small-time stuff. And I would agree with that, as of course, China also pays significantly a lot of money in order to push particular talking points inside of American media. And personally, as someone who is also an independent journalist and an influencer, there have been incidences where a lot of major kind of industries have come to me and offered me a buttload of money. Now, whatever that might mean to you or to somebody else, but we're talking something in the tune of like high five figures to particularly sell a certain kind of product or activity, to the point where I kind of felt uncomfortable specifically where that money was coming from, and I denied those larger opportunities to me. As of course, we don't make that much money here. What some of the Tenet guys were making in a month, we don't make in a year. And we, again, heavily rely on your support, and your support is more needed now than ever. As of course, I think it's fair to say that this is also going to set up a larger chilling effect in alternative media, where people are like, I can't trust any kind of outside money, because now I'm automatically thinking, what if there's a shell company within another shell company within other people? As of course, the indictment here specifically reads that there was outside companies from places like Hungary that were being used here in order to launder and send money to Tenet Media on behalf of the Russian government. Allegedly, that would have been absolutely impossible for anyone to kind of really verify the larger sources of where it came from and its larger kind of extensive ties here. As another influencer, Laura Loomer, came out and also said, quote, it's going to be wild when all of the stories come out about the right-wing influencers who are getting paid by Qatar. I bet that comes next. As of course, this is something now that we gotta consider, that we gotta worry about, as of course, a lot of people unwillingly could be set up here, could be entrapped. As now, there's a likely possibility that the DOJ could come into some of these media companies and say, hey, now we got to freeze all of your assets because your money came from sanctioned states that weren't supposed to give you any money. Now you're going to have to give that back. Now we're going to investigate this. Now we're going to fine you. Now we're going to penalize you. Now we're going to, of course, go after you because you're a willing participant in something that we need to explore more and further investigate. And that's what could potentially happen here, especially with an ever so overzealous DOJ that has been going after a lot of people for political purposes. As some people are even potentially alluding here that this could have been some kind of larger false flag. Now, I don't know if it was or if it wasn't, but there's a lot of very serious questions specifically raised here, as one of the key people questioned here, Lauren Chen, that according to this indictment was lying and obfuscating a lot of the details here with her husband, has previous posts where she was against Donald Trump. A lot of people are bringing those up. There's some larger allegations of some other things happening behind the scenes here, as Mike Cernovich believes that there could be some kind of federal asset involved here, as other people are talking about the larger kind of political motives and aspirations here by Biden's administration that wants to, of course, rehash all the Russian collusion allegations during a political year that, of course, is very convenient for them to bring up. As the situation gets complex, as people are bringing up that Lauren Chen was, quote, previously an anti-Trumper. Now, obviously, we live in an ever so complicated, sophisticated, larger information war out there. And that's why I think it's more important to question every single thing that happens. This is why here on this independent media broadcast, we tell you not to believe us, do your own homework, and to more importantly, start to critically analyze everything that you are seeing. Just even a few days ago, I made a special video for members of LookUnfiltered.com specifically describing we are living in a total disinformation, chaotic, confusing world that is meant to, of course, make you absolutely dizzy to the point of not even understanding what is up and down. I think it's fair to say that's the kind of political circus that we're all living in right now. That's why, particularly in that video for members of LookUnfiltered.com, I recommended, you guys got to meditate, relax, take some time off, be in a quiet room, try to assess and analyze things as best as you can, and try to think 2 or 3 steps ahead of what's going on here. And sadly, as an independent content creator, there's a lot of responsibility here. There's a lot of fake news out there that you have to be doing everything in your power not to fall for. As it's fair to say, information has been weaponized. And there are a lot of people that wield this weapon in an absolutely, truly unfair way. And there's a lot of sorcery, there's a lot of tricks, there's a lot of manipulation, there's a lot of other things happening behind the scenes that are just mind-boggling. And that's why your discernment, your critical thinking is more important than ever when it comes to interpreting everything coming our way. As of course, it also complicates the situation that people's attention spans are so short right now, that content has to be curated and made that much more tighter, that much more quicker, that much more of an analysis, of a read, of a take that has to happen there, instead of a larger process of just kind of like sitting back being like, wait, why are we hearing about this now? Why is this being portrayed right now the way it is? Why are these particular people all saying this one thing at the same time? Because, of course, one thing that this indictment does, it definitely creates a larger rift amongst independent media that now is hyper-focused on itself, hyper-focused on dunking on each other, rather than, of course, looking at the larger kind of perspective and picture here and starting to realize and question everything. Again, it's a wild, confusing world that we're living in, and it's only going to get way more wild within the next 60 days. So strap in, and truly, crazy day. Only going to get crazier. It's only going to get more wild, even past those 60 days. It's going to just be berserk. As I want to leave the question to you, what do you think was really happening at Tenet Media? Was this a kind of false flag operation to attack independent media? Or was this something that, of course, is, as the DOJ now is fully explaining, a larger kind of usurping by Russian government forces trying to influence our larger political discourse here? As of course, there's also specific instances and specific stories named in this indictment that they specifically allege was the larger kind of talking points behind what Tenet Media was supposed to represent. So there is that factor as well talking points that, again, some people on the media organization even countered specifically. Again, what do you think happened here, Eds? I want to declaratively state here, no one has ever had editorial control of this independent media organization, and they never will. Why? Predominantly because of your support on LukeUnfiltered.com, which we appreciate greatly and is needed now more than ever. Again, the more that the average everyday human being supports us, again, these are small things. These are $8. This is not $100,000 an episode. These are $8 small-time donations. And the more of us that participate in this, the more of you guys that help us, the more I promise to work every single day for you. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. You guys are my editors. You guys don't even tell me what to do. I don't even listen to you. I piss off you guys sometimes too. And I'm willing to do that all because I, of course, consider and care about critical thinking more than anything else. I like to challenge people. I like to raise concerns. I like to raise issues. I like to, of course, talk about the issues that I want to talk about. That's exactly what we're getting here specifically on youtube.com/wearechange.